Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the intraday trading course. In today's episode, we're going to be going over market control and changes of character, and then some criteria of what makes a good quality zone. So, without further ado, let's just get straight into it. Essentially, what is market control is where we're going to start with. Now, at any point in time, there are either going to be supply or demand in control of the market, right? Usually when demand is in control of the market, price increases, and when supply is in control of the market, price decreases. And we understand that through a series of mitigated supply or demand levels, and that's what we call supply chain or demand chain. Very easy to understand. I'm going to show you an example right now of demand in control, right? So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Here we have a high, and this high is responsible for putting in this low. And then this low is responsible for putting in a new high, right? That high then is a break of structure. I'm going to actually pull price back a minute, because at the same time I'm going to teach you about change of character. So as you can see, we have made a new low overall, and that new low has come from this supply level, and then inside of that there is a new low in here. So now we already know how to mark out supply and demand zones. We have supply zone number 1, we'll take that back, and we have supply zone number 2, right? So there's 2 levels of supply. Now, at this moment in time, supply is in control of the market, because supply is continually being mitigated and respected. And then this supply has put in a new low, this supply has just put in a new low. Once this happens, we mitigate our supply and we break it. Once we break through the supply level, that tells us there are more buyers than there are sellers. There is more demand in this specific moment than there is supply. And that is what we call a change of character. Essentially, you can understand character to be supply or demand. They are the 2 characters. And the change is simple. We are changing from one character to the other. It's very easy to understand. A change of character represents the change of supply to demand or demand to supply. And usually we use the last level of supply that puts in a low. This supply puts in this low, the lowest point, gets broken, leaves behind demand, and boom, right? There are other factors in play. Just because we have a change of character never means that we're going to go ahead and break structure. Changes of character happen everywhere, always, at all times. It's just important to understand where you should be looking for changes of character and why. And that's what we'll go into when we get into the section, the series of putting it all together, where in that series, we will literally put everything together. So yeah, we've had a change of character, and that change of character has resulted in a demand zone. Now, what we have to understand is that we are still bearish, right? We are putting in lows, lower lows. We're still bearish until we break this high. Now, when we break this high, that will be a break of structure. So structure is different to character, right? It's similar in nature, because usually if supply is in control, structure will be bearish. If demand is in control, structure will be bullish. But it's not necessarily always the case, right? So we leave behind the demand level, we mitigate it, and then we mitigate some more, and some more, and then we break this supply level. And when we break this high, we had a break of structure. So now structure is bullish and demand is in control, right? Demand can be temporarily in control. And what I mean by that is, let's say order flow is bearish, right? Like so. Order flow is bearish. But in the pullback for the leg here, or trend even, on its way back up to a supply level, you can see we would have a change of character until we get there. And that is an example of temporary control. You can see supply, high, demand. Okay, in here, not really. But for example, this could have easily happened as we are bearish. We change character, we mitigate, push, react, and then sell off, right? Because structure is more important than character. But anyhow, nonetheless, we have a change of character and a break of structure. So now demand is absolutely in control. Here's our demand zone that caused it. If price comes back into our demand and then goes, we are now going to be forming a demand chain, right? A demand chain is just a chain of demands consistently mitigated. So you can see that price comes down and taps right in to our demand level, hasn't yet broken the high. Equal highs. And eventually it will probably break it. Right, now you can see it's broke it, right? We've had a break of structure. Demand is in control. The last point of demand that took control of the market was where? It was here. It's been mitigated now, but this was the last point of demand that was in control. So when that gets broken, if that gets broken, when that gets broken, that is a change of character. That means that supply has temporarily, perhaps, gained control of the market. But the trend is bullish. So right now we have a situation where supply is in control, probably more temporarily, but structure is bullish. And that supply leaves behind a supply range, which may or may not become mitigated before tapping into our demand range. Right, that's our demand zone. This overall level is our demand range. Sell to buy, sell to buy. Yeah, change, shift, boom. Still could come and take out this wick here, or even come back into here, right? Because structure is still structure, but comes into our zone and then goes, right? And takes out what? Takes out our level of supply. Now, here's something interesting. Here we have a level of supply that puts in this low. As price breaks through the level, that results in a change of character, right? Demand temporarily regains control of the market, even though overall it is in control. In between these legs, we can chop and change through supply and demand. Then price leaves behind an area of demand in which we may or may not. Okay, look, now what do we have? We have a new demand level that's responsible for this high. So we have two demand levels that are both in the structural bullish leg. Now we have 3 demand levels. Okay. Does it ever come back? I'm not sure, to be honest. Now we have a new demand level and a new demand level, right? They are all responsible at some point for putting in a new high. They are all also part of this one structural leg, right? So now we have a change of character. So supply temporarily takes control of the market with this change of character. It mitigates the supply level and continues. Now it enters a demand, it breaks a new demand. That's not a change of character because supply is temporarily in control until this level, right? Supply comes in this buy to sell. When it gets broken, that is again a change of character. The demand that caused that change of character is here. And then price continues. So I think you get the point. Essentially, these are just all demand levels. They're just all demand areas that have the potential to have reactions from. And based on those reactions, we would be able to trade or not trade. But the point is what is market control? Market control is at any one moment in time who is in control of the market based on whether levels of demand or supply are being respected or disrespected, right? So we can see that although we are bullish, supply still was able to gain control for a minute, mitigate, gain control for a minute, then demand took back control and we continued with the trend. But this could have also easily happened, right? We have a change of character up, but continue, change of character down, change of character up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, until we come to an area that's well priced within the structural leg that holds relevance for demand, that changes character, and then takes out the structural high because it's just order flow. And that's why we put the most importance, the most relevance on structure, order flow, trend, because without it, we would be lost. That is the most important thing. That is the king. And supply and demand is just something that we add into that to be able to get involved in those structural points of the market. So that's everything I essentially wanted to make clear to you guys. Changes of character happen all over the place. Don't be induced left and right through change of characters, as a lot of people, when they first start out, they overemphasize changes of character and demand and supply, and underemphasize structure and order flow when it's the other way around. So that's it, guys, for this episode. And that is it for supply and demand also. We have covered everything in supply and demand, everything that needs to be covered to understand how to actually get involved in levels of supply and demand and what levels to take. We will cover when we go through putting it all together. So in the next series, we're going to be covering liquidity, and after liquidity, we will go into putting it all together, where we will be building case study after case study on putting A to Z of this strategy together in full display, so you guys understand how to use everything in relation to one another. It's okay to understand supply and demand on its own. It's okay to understand structure and order flow on its own. It's okay to understand liquidity on its own. But the key is when you put them all together to formulate an understanding. And then that formulation of the understanding is what gives you your edge, right? That is the trading strategy. So guys, thank you for joining us, and I will see you in the next one.